Welcome again to Studio 14's Overton County Magazine. I'm your host, Jerry Stovall. Overton County Magazine is a show designed to bring our viewers a look at some of the interesting as well as informative people and events occurring in and around Overton County. Some of our stories are videotaped on location, while still others will be brought to you straight from Studio 14. So why don't we all sit back, relax, and thumb through this week's magazine. In this segment, we have with us tonight Dr. Jerry Shipley, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about his hobby, which is photography. If you ever go over to the Court Square Emporium, you'll see some of his pictures hanging up over there. I believe he's a member of the Overton County Arts and Craft Guild. And tell you what to start out with tonight. How did you get started in photography?
I bought a camera 7 or 8 years ago just for family snapshots. That at the time my brother-in-law was in the Navy and said, well, I'll get you a good camera cheap, let me pick it out for you. And he bought a real good Minolta with automatic exposure. And I learned that it was easy to point and shoot and get good pictures, and just gradually from there got more and more interested.
Okay, now you shoot a lot of black and white, I noticed from your pictures over there. This means that you like the quality, I'd say, of black and white, and you do your own developing.
Yeah, I like black and white because it's easier to concentrate on what you're doing. It's easy with color to get all enthusiastic about the color rather than the contrast or the content or the composition of the picture. And black and white forces the photographer to look at what the light's doing.
Okay.
And light is the whole. All you're doing is manipulating light with a camera anyway. Then the next thing is, once you decide to shoot black and white, it's easy to do your own development, and that's where you really get quality control. You cannot get good quality black and white developing anywhere except a custom lab. And it's easy to do your own lab, it's easy to do your own developing with as good a quality as you can buy in black and white. That's not true in color, but it is in black and white.
Okay, let's take a look at one of your pictures. Maybe you can explain a little bit about what you look for when you shoot a shot.
This is a shot I took last summer of some morning glories up on the hill where I live in black and white, and took 2 or 3 different exposures to get the depth of field I wanted, and then manipulated the print some in the darkroom. Actually, this print was a horizontal, and I blew it up, turned it vertical, and then cropped everything out except just the morning glories.
Okay, what did you look for when you did that?
Well, I was looking for contrast. Of course, these were white flowers with purple centers and a deep green background sitting in the edge of the gravel, which gave me a lot of different textures and contrast to use, and I didn't care about the color. And I shot the picture 2 or 3 different ways to decide whether or not I wanted the depth of field just at the flowers or including the background, and decided in the darkroom that I wanted the background clear too. If you back up a little bit, you can see the background better. But this is where it's fun to have a darkroom, because you can manipulate what you want the picture to show. There was a lot of extraneous stuff in there that I cropped out.
Okay, now
see, there's another black and white here. This is an old barn toward Willow Grove that I liked because of the quality of the contrast. This was on an overcast afternoon, and again, I cropped this down in the darkroom to show just the corner of the barn with the old rusty sign and the texture of the barn wood, and then the roof's almost torn off in the tornado. But it was an interesting study in contrast and textures.
Yeah, I believe, if I'm right, I've noticed a lot of your pictures have a lot to do with the history of the county. I think I've seen some up around Alpine. I think of different.
I took a lot at Alpine last summer.
Yeah, it kind of, people would have a feel for this. I mean, they may have a little history in their blood behind that, and maybe have came in contact with it from time to time. So it's all a little history of the county, I believe.
A lot of my favorite ones are stuff that's local. This is one that's not local. It's one of my favorite black and whites. This was taken in New Orleans about 3 years ago.
There, let me get that.
And this is one of those. This is one of the times it's nice to have a dark room because I didn't know what I had until I got this home and had it printed. And this is a bag lady sitting on a park bench in New Orleans with roller skates on. I didn't notice it until I got home. And then also the pigeon in the foreground was just good luck. I didn't intend to compose it with a pigeon in the foreground, but I labeled this one Roller Derby Queen. It's one of my favorite pictures.
Yeah, that's unique. That's I'd say you see a lot of that in the larger cities.
In
like
any
that.
larger city, and I come home with shots sometimes I'll look at in the darkroom and not print because they're too sad, and I think they may be exploiting some of the more unfortunate people. But something with this much humor, I think that old lady would enjoy the picture too.
The roller skates, that's just
This was on New Year's Day, and she had obviously had a wild New Year's Eve.
Okay, now could you show us a little bit about the equipment that you use on this?
I thought it'd be nice to bring this if anybody is watching who would like to get interested in photography. They have an idea of what to start with, and I've got a couple of cameras, one of which is a relatively cheap camera, this one, that I keep loaded with color film, and then a expensive camera that I use for black and white. It really doesn't make any difference about whether I'm using color or black and white. But these are things that I didn't know when I started. This is a fairly cheap Nikon body. It has a little motor drive on it and a zoom lens, but the camera itself with a cheap 50mm lens would be probably less than $200. And then you'd have something you could build on. And Nikon's unquestionably, I think, the best quality camera equipment you can get. I don't think there's any real argument about it. And then when you get more interested, if you decide you want to build on it, then you can go, all you do is buy more camera bodies and then accessories. All your lenses, if you stay in the same brand, will be interchangeable. So once you make the lens investment, that's it.
Okay, you say the camera body now. It's just the main frame here that you take the lenses off and on.
Yeah, you just buy, just this body alone was about $150, which is not bad for an automatic camera. And this little camera has all the little whistles and bells on it that most people want to start with. It's automatic shutter priority or aperture priority, which means you can either set it according to how much light you want to get into the camera or how fast you want the shutter to go. And the camera also has a program thing. You just put it on program and aim it and focus it and shoot it. The camera will pick out everything for you. And then you can put little gadgets on it. Like this has a power winder that gives you 2 frames per second shooting speed, and then the zoom lens. This is a cheap zoom lens.
Okay, you'd use the power winder more or less on a, say, like in a basketball game where you wanted to get a segmented shot.
I'll use it because I'm lazy. I'm completely ruined. I can't shoot without one anymore. It lets you, a power winder or a motor drive, lets you concentrate on what you're seeing through the camera and whether or not you're in focus and whether or not you have it cropped or composed to suit you. You don't have to move the camera from your eye to advance the film. Once you get used to it, it's really hard not to have one. Thank goodness this was a relatively cheap unit.
Okay, now, and your other
This is the top of the line in Nikon cameras. This is called an F3. And this is as expensive a camera as you can buy without getting outrageous. And this has a motor drive on it that's capable of up to 6 frames a second if you get really hot batteries. And then again, this is a fairly expensive lens because it's a very fast one, but you don't need. This is a lens that's really far better than I really need for most of my work.
Okay,
But the point is that once you get one camera body that is durable, quality, easy to get fixed, that you can count on using, once you decide on a brand name, then you can add to it a couple $100 at a time or less, and before long you've got everything you need without killing yourself. This is a lot of money, but I bought it a little at a time. It took me, I first started with Minolta and ended up with 2 Minolta bodies, a motor drive, and all the lenses, and decided I didn't like Minolta. So I had to sell everything and start all over again. So I wish I had started with
Well, I guess that's your experience. You decided what you liked and started up from
But
there.
it doesn't take expensive cameras to take good pictures, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not required at all.
Okay, now you do your own darkroom work. What are you talking about there? If somebody wants to do that, because I did a little darkroom work, and I know it's real rewarding to be able to develop your film.
I like it because you've got total quality control. From the time you take the picture with the camera to the time you hang it on the wall in black and white, it's totally under my control. That gives you a lot of leeway when you develop your film. If you have an idea of the conditions you shot it under, if you need to change your development time or your development temperature, then you can change your negative quite a bit. For example, you can take 400 ASA film, which is fairly fast, but get in a low light situation in a high school basketball game or something that you really don't want to use a flash and yet the lights aren't that bright. Set your camera on 1600 ASA, which gives you 4 times the film speed, and then you buy a special developer for your film.
Oh, okay. You can use the.
And you can get 1600 ASA film, which gives you 4 times as fast with 400.
I didn't know that. Now you can't
and
get
you
that.
get acceptable quality pictures. You don't get great museum quality prints, but they'll be good enough for newspaper work or snapshots or something.
Okay, you can't get those developed commercially though. Like
you can, but the lab has to know what they're doing, and they have to care enough to take special pains with your stuff. A lot of labs stick it in the machine, and that's it.
Yeah, you don't send it just down to the drugstore and get it done.
You can't, not if you're pushing your film, because most drugstore processors are not going to do hand processing, and this has to be hand processed.
Okay. All right.
But that's one advantage. And then when you begin to print, as I said before, you can change the orientation of the negative horizontally or vertically, or for that matter, you can change it diagonally. I've got some pictures that I liked that turned out that the camera wasn't exactly level, so you turn the negative a little bit and then take your horizontal section out of the middle of it. It gives you a great deal of leeway, and nobody can do it better than you can in your own darkroom if you take pains with it, and it's not hard to do.
Okay.
You don't even need a special room. I do it in my bathroom.
Use an enlarger to do that.
All you need is an enlarger and some trays and some chemicals. You don't have to worry about temperature if your house in this part of the country, if you've got air conditioning or heating, your house is around 70 degrees. That's the temperature you want to use. You couldn't do it in the summertime without an air conditioner. It'd be too hot.
Okay.
You couldn't do it in the winter if you were 60 degrees. It'd be too cold. But central air and heat, you can shoot it anywhere.
Well, I'll tell you what, it sounds like you spend a good deal of time at this. Okay, you do have one color shot over here.
I've got a couple of color shots.
Oh, okay.
I want to show this one first. This is a fairly small one. Again, this was shot in New Orleans. I have this larger, but the color of the print is not as good, so I brought this one. You can come in on it. This is called Wheelchair Blues. This is a boy in a wheelchair on some back street in the French Quarter of New Orleans playing a saxophone. And this is part of why I really enjoy photography. I was walking down the street with a long lens on the camera so that I wouldn't have to get in somebody's face, and I saw this kid and turned around and focused it and shot off 2 frames and went on. I don't think he ever knew I took his picture.
I'll tell you something.
But this is why I don't do color. This print has good quality color, but color developing drives me crazy. I never would get it right. It's hard enough to get it right anywhere else. This other one is not a good quality print, but I bought it to show the difference between using black and white, what you can do differently with black and white and color. This is nothing to this picture except color. It's just your basic red flower with green foliage, but the contrast here in black and white would have been boring. It's the color that makes that picture interesting.
Okay, now I notice your background, the leaves, are blurred on this picture. Is there a way to get it all in focus?
This turned out that way because I was shooting this in open shade, which meant I didn't have a lot of light, and I was right up on the flower, so I had to have the camera opened up to let all the light in I could get. When you do that, you decrease your depth of field.
Oh, okay.
I could have shot this a different way and got the leaves in focus, but because of the light conditions and the lens I had on the camera at the time, this is about as good as I can get, but I like it this way anyway. But a lot of this comes out with sheer luck. A lot of this I don't plan. I don't know what I've got until I look at it.
Oh, you do real good. I noticed on some of the other pictures you had, you know, that pretty well everything was in focus from the subject on back.
I'm learning. I'm learning how to do that. Of course, the shots at a longer distance, your focal depth, your depth of field is going to be longer.
Mm-hmm.
But the closer you are to the camera, the greater, the more critical it is. And when you get real close, you really got to pay attention to what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I was walking down the street in the Bahamas one day and saw that flower, and I just leaned over, shot it, and went on. And that's another one I didn't notice till I got home and looked at. It's one of my favorite shots.
Yeah, it is. That's a good looking one. Okay. Is there any sort of tips that you could give, say, somebody that wanted to start into this hobby? Because it is a hobby with you, and I don't know what possesses somebody to start a hobby. I think everybody's got one of some sort or another.
Well, it's nice to have a hobby. We were talking about being amateurs a minute ago. The word amateur comes from Latin. It really means one who does something from love. And if you're an amateur, really should be somebody who wants to do something bad enough to be willing to do it badly. Rather than worry about doing it well. I started because I enjoyed it and didn't care, and specifically made myself stop worrying about whether or not what I did was any good or not. It was as long as I liked it. That was its only criteria. And to get some decent equipment to start with, which should not be expensive to begin with. And then the third thing to do is to carry the camera with you and shoot. Film's the cheapest. If photography is your hobby, film's the cheapest part of it. And if you go out and you shoot 2 or 3 shots a day, you're never going to get anywhere. Shoot 2 or 3 rolls a day when you find something you want. If you don't like it, throw it away. But throwing it away, looking at it and deciding I don't like that, and throwing it away, the act of doing that will make a good deal more aware of what you consider is good quality.
Is there anybody in this area that can give somebody help? You know, as far as technical, you have to have some help on the technical end. I know that.
Well, oddly enough, I don't know that you really do. If you get one of these new automatic cameras and read the camera manual and take some pictures, it's hard to make a mistake. You're going to get good photographs the first roll you shoot. If you've got that camera in focus and in anywhere near normal light, you're going to get a good picture. I've never had any training or any courses at all. I've read a lot. But I read more for the enjoyment of going over what's there than I do to try to learn anything. I'm learning most of what I do by reading the manuals and the photography text and going out and shooting pictures and remembering what I did. And
trial and error.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's much quicker to do it another way. But
yeah. Maybe not as much fun, though.
Maybe not as much fun.
Okay, well, is there any other sort of tips you might give somebody on photography, or I think we pretty well covered it?
That's pretty well it. It's the reason I enjoy it is because it's something I can do totally for my own enjoyment. There's no judges here about whether or not the patient gets well or what somebody thinks about it. This is something I do simply for my own enjoyment, and the fact that other people enjoy it is a bonus, but it's not the reason that I think anybody should have a hobby. The hobby ought to be just for you.
Personal. Yeah.
Photography is easy, it's relatively cheap, it's easy to learn, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, I'll tell you what, I want to thank you for being here tonight and sharing a little bit of this with us. I know, just like up the Court Square Emporium up there, things like that really help, you know, and everybody up there is kind of a craftsman of sorts, and that's what they're doing. They're sharing their labors with everybody, and it's a hobby, I think, with the majority of them.
I think it's a real asset to the community.
I believe it is. I really do. I enjoy going up there and just browsing around, and I know I've seen a lot of your pictures up there, and I think they're good. There's something they say to you when you look at them, you know.
Good.
And I guess that's the name of the game. That's what you're trying to do. And like I say, I want to thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And anybody who wants to see Dr. Shipley's photographs, I believe some of them are on display up at the Court Square Emporium, and drop in there and take a look at them. In this segment, we snatched a fellow right off the set up here, one of the owners of Dragon Productions, Jack Davis, and I'd like to read a little excerpt from a paper, the TEA news release, Tennessee Education Association, dated March 20th, 1987. For the best locally produced educational program, 2 Nashville stations, WTVF-TV and WSMV-TV, received bells. WTVF won for the School of Hard Knocks, and WSMV won for A Word from Snowbird. Channel 14 Livingston won a bell for the best locally produced educational program by a cable TV station. And right here we have the bell sitting on the table in front of us, and also a plaque. It says School Bell Award to CATV Channel 14. Jack, how did you come about winning this award?
Well, Jerry, back in December of 1986, we were approached by the Overton County Education Association and informed that they would like to nominate us for a School Bell Award for a contribution that we may have made in 86, 87 to the Overton County Education.
Mm-hmm.
And we told them we'd be glad to assist them in any way possible and be honored to be nominated for this. So we made up roughly a 20-minute tape of some of the things that we had produced in Overton County, and they submitted it to the Tennessee Education Association. And it came through. It paid off for us.
Yeah, this is a state award. I mean,
Right. It sure is.
contributing stations in the state would all contribute a tape, and you'd be in the running against them.
Right. We were roughly competing against 95 counties.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a good-looking bell. It what's it say on there? Well, I guess they probably get a close enough shot to read it. Same thing as what we had on the paper, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But you figure that competition was really tough this year? You went down to the awards,
Right,
I believe.
right, I sure did. I don't know that competition was that stiff. The understanding I got, a lot of the categories had several people competing in them,
Mhm.
and a lot of the categories didn't have any winners at all. So it
So you
it
did
really,
okay. You didn't just get it for being, if you were the only one, which
Right.
you know, you say there was other
Right.
stations
I know we
competing.
were entered in 2 categories, and in one category there was no winners.
Mhm.
So in one thing, ourselves and several other stations, evidently we didn't really meet what they were looking for down there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I want to congratulate you and of course Joe Davis and Charlie Stevens, and I even believe Billy Akers had a little bit to do with that.
Right. I don't think any one of us could take all the credit
Yeah.
for this, because it's definitely been a team effort. And,
I just wish we could get the rest of them out here. You know, it's funny y'all being in this business, nobody wants to get in front of the camera.
That's true. It's more fun behind it.
Okay, well, we'll let you get back to work, and just do want to congratulate you on this, and wish you luck next year.
Thank you.
I would like to thank everyone for watching tonight. We hope that you have enjoyed our magazine, and be sure and tune us in next time. We would also like to invite you to send us your comments and ideas for future shows. This is Jerry Stovall saying thank you and good night.